So today we're going to do a little bit of a preview going into the week ahead. It's another pretty big week in the stock market. A couple of things to point out. Obviously, the big one is Hims and Hers are going to be reporting earnings. They are going to be reporting earnings in, by the time you see this video, a couple of hours time. So you, depending on the time whenever you watch this video, you might know the earnings already, or hopefully you've watched it before the earnings, and we're kind of having a bit of a preview into it. So if you watched it after the earnings come out, this video is a little bit useless for you guys, so apologies. But we'll also talk about a few other stocks as well, so don't worry too much. So we'll talk about the week ahead. I've got to point out, Stockopedia have actually started doing a pretty good report on the week ahead, and they actually bring it out on Friday, which is a really good bit of information, as you can see here. Got all the information that you may want to look at, and companies that are reporting. Key information that's coming out this week as well. So another good feature added by Stockopedia. You can join that through the link in the description and get a 15% discount, I believe it is. So a little bit of a shout out there to Stockopedia. One thing on a data point of view is we are going to get the US GDP growth. We're going to get the second estimate here, as you can see. First reading came in a little bit weak. Hopefully, well, I was going to say hopefully it's a little bit better, but the stock market's funny because right now they might... the stock market can look at this either way and decide where it wants to go with it. Because if it's weak data, it might send the market down because it goes, oh, it's a weak bit of data. The economy's slowing down, and then it might throw it down the mark. If it goes up, it might then still throw it in under the bus and go, well, it's going up, and that means we might not get interest rate cuts. So whatever the data is, if it's good data or bad data, the market could take it either way and still throw it under the bus. So we'll see what happens there. It's funny how sometimes the market reacts to some of those data there. On the US earnings wise, we've got Domino's reporting. Hims and Hers, obviously the big one, the one that I own, my large position is reporting. I'll probably on Tuesday get the whiteboard out, put the information out there, do a breakdown of the earnings and the conference call. I'm going to pre-warn you, I am 100% sure that most of the conference call and questions, not a conference call as such, I'm sure Andrew Dunham will be wanting to focus on the main business, but I am pretty sure all the analysts are going to ask about GLP-1 and what's going on there and what's your plan going forward, how much is it going to impact you, are you looking at other alternatives to get around the GLP-1, because there's been a few suggestions there that Hims and Hers are going to try to get around the Novo patent now by saying, oh, we actually don't breach the patent because ours is a little bit different because we do personalised medication. It'll all be around that, I think. So just bear in mind, we'll be all GLP-1'd out probably by the end of Monday after the conference call. Looking at the numbers, big numbers expected. EPS is expected to go from 0.05 up to 0.22. That is a very big increase. Revenue growth of 90%, so a major increase there as well. So yeah, big numbers to hit. I think they could do it. They normally are pretty good at guiding the numbers and exceeding. I think the big thing that the market's going to be looking at is the guidance. What guidance are they going to give? Looking at the moment, we're expecting EPS to go from 0.85 up to 1.01. We're expecting 42% revenue growth expected. Obviously, Hims and Hers has a history of beating and raising pretty much nearly every earnings. The big difference that I see from Hims and Hers is that this is already quite high numbers. So the issue that you have here is that because I've been in Hims and Hers for a long time, I think I've said previously before, I think I am the first ever YouTuber, as I said this before because I had someone going, you weren't the first YouTuber to cover this. And I think I was the first ever long-term investor, like proper long-term investor to cover it on YouTube. Not someone that was just buying anything because it was SPAC related or because it was going, oh, look, that stock's 100%. It doesn't matter. It's losing crazy amounts of money. The first long-term investor on YouTube that actually started covering the stock, back, 3-4 years ago now. And, when I started covering the stock 3-4 years ago, the analysts were always way off it. And they were always forecasting growth numbers of 20% revenue growth for the year, and I was like, there's no way they're doing 20%. They're at least going to come in the 40+% range. But analysts are starting to catch up a little bit at the moment, and you can see here 42% is already strong growth for the year. So to raise that up, I mean, eventually they might get it up to 50+% or what have you. But the thing is that without GLP-1, we know the Hims and Hers platform was probably growing around somewhere 40 to 50%. So if that GLP-1 is going to go out in it depends if it all completely goes out. That's another story. But if that does go out in that, the Q2 period, and then they've also got the harder comps to go against in the back of the year because they'll have GLP-1s in them, and maybe they won't have it in the back of the year. 42% could actually be quite a hard number for them to do. I have forecast in my revenue estimates like 25 to 35% revenue growth. So this is still way ahead of where I'm forecasting. But that could be the only thing. We're going into this year with the highest numbers I've ever seen analysts start forecasting, which could be tricky for them. I've said that multiple times before, and then Hims and Hers has smashed it. So I would just be very cautious on the guide here. Hims and Hers might want to kind of get the expectations a little bit under control a little bit. I don't know. I'm just kind of guessing here, but that's my only concern I have going into this earnings, is how much we might see a little bit of effect from that GLP-1, and the guide already been pretty strong for the year anyway. So that's what's going to move the market, is the guide, more than likely. Zoom's always an interesting one. Never gets to the value that I particularly like, but I keep looking at it. One of those kind of beaten down CV stocks, but it's still doing okay numbers out there. Carver's reporting, AMC, First Solar, Lucid Motors, Lemonade. I remember a few years ago everybody was talking about Lemonade as like the next big thing, but they haven't really done anything. I always looked at that and I thought they are still losing a ton of money. So maybe they could start turning it around. Workday reporting, Intuitive reporting. Wednesday, Lowe's are reporting on the close. Probably the big one there. You got Nvidia reporting. What's going on there? Are they still seeing major amounts of growth? This year, not really done anything. Last year was absolutely on fire, but slowed down a little bit. I got to say, I'm looking at Nvidia's numbers, and they're still crazy good. The year ago EPS is expected to go to 1.3 to 2.95 in this coming up year, and even the year after is just insane growth. Revenue growth of 112%, next year 51%, and realistically, you look at the forward P at the moment, it's 31 forward times earnings. Like, I don't know if I'm being stupid here, but if Nvidia do those numbers, I don't think this goes to 31 forward times earnings. I think the stock goes higher once again. I don't know. I don't know what I'm missing here, but obviously they've got big comparisons to hit this year, so we'll see if they're able to do it. But that's going to be a very interesting one on the Wednesday. That's one of those stocks that has the ability to move the whole market. If they do good numbers, the market will be very happy. If Nvidia comes in with shaky numbers, you watch, especially because a lot of the rally as well in the last 2 years has been a little bit of like an AI rally. Yeah, that could spook the market, so we'll see there. Snowflake are reporting, Salesforce, Jobby, the poor version of EHang. Thursday, not too much on the Thursday. Open Door, that's a blast from the past as well. Fubo TV, not too much there. On the UK side, there's a lot of companies reporting earnings, but there's just not really much I'm interested in. Me Group, I know some of you guys are invested in that one. Aston Martin, let's see if they go bankrupt for is it the 9th time now? Have they gone bankrupt 8 times, Aston Martin? It's crazy, whatever it is. WPP, Taylor Wimpey is an interesting one. I've got to say, if I wasn't in Barrett Developments right now, I'd probably be very tempted to pick up those shares in Taylor Wimpey. So that's very interesting. Aviva reporting, they came out with really strong earnings last time actually. Rolls-Royce reporting as well. IAG, they've had a fantastic year. RevB, one I used to own, made some really good money on that one. Rightmove's reporting. I don't believe it's on this list here, but I think it's on the Thursday. I'm not being stupid. Have I missed it on here? But CVS Group are reporting no, it's not on here. They are reporting their interim results, so we'll see what happens there. Pretty new position in the UK portfolio. I've got to say, if CVS Group has a little bit of a jump on Thursday, I might be tempted to cash in my shares, so I'm going to keep an eye on that one there. I wouldn't expect to jump though, considering they did a trading update not too long ago, so there shouldn't be any big surprises on that one there. I've got to say, I think I've actually missed one. Yeah, TransMedics. I was actually going to make a point about TransMedics. So this has been a popular one. I've seen a few people in the Discord trying to that think this is a pretty interesting. I think, did it see Clover Health as well? Yeah, I think a few people have been buying Clover Health as well. That seems a popular one. But TransMedics, that seems one that a few people have been like trying to dip into at the moment, thinking that's a little bit of an opportunity there. It's actually on the stock request for me to do it at some point on the Patreon, so I'll have to take a look at it. Stock was performing absolutely amazing not too long ago, but had a bit of a dip off recently. As you can see here, lost nearly, well, over half its share price. Starting to have a little bit of a bounce up, but nowhere near to where it was valued here. Looking at the last earnings, the market didn't seem to like it, probably because it came with a pretty chunky EPS miss, and revenue growth was a miss as well, which you don't want to see. But it's one of those tricky ones where you go, yeah, the numbers were way off what they were supposed to do, but it was still, 63% year-over-year growth is still still not too bad, is it, overall? Maybe a little bit of a downgrade of the guidance. So I guess when you're at these sort of premium valuations, you've got to hit the guidance, but the growth figures are still, looking good there. I mean, I was looking here, and the EPS for 2025 is expected to go from 0.95 up to $1.41. They're expecting 21% revenue growth there. Still not too bad. It'd be interesting to see what they kind of come out with a guidance, because obviously they've just come off 77% growth, and in the last quarter 34% growth. I'd be really surprised to see them slow down this much. So the key thing will be, once again, guidance with that one. If the EPS is going to be correct, and this slower growth here, if they're actually going to come in with like 30% revenue growth, that could be really interesting. I was looking here, and I think the forward PE, Yahoo Finance has been really off it at the moment. I think they're coming up with a forward PE of like 60. I think I worked it out way lower than that. I think I got like around about 50-ish or something. So yeah, it's that could be one to watch as well. So I'll keep an eye out for that one as well. And it'd be really good as well that I wait for the earnings on this one, because when I do the stock request on it on the Patreon, obviously I will have the fresh information to talk about, and then we'll have the full year guide, because there's valuing a stock. Where's the tab gone? Valuing the stock is massively different if you valuing a stock that is, just come off 77% year-over-year growth and 34% on the last quarter. Like, the growth is slowing down, and sometimes that happens when you just get bigger and bigger. But it's quite, I would say that's actually probably a little bit of a concerning slowdown. But as well, there's a big difference when you're valuing a company between, okay, you're growing at 30% a year or you're growing at 21% a year. That can make a big difference as well. So yeah, that's an interesting one. I'm looking forward to their earnings, and then hopefully this week on the Patreon I'll do the stock request on that one with all the fresh information out there as well. So yeah, there should be a few interesting moves in the stock market. Obviously we kind of gone from like the mega caps now into a lot more of the mid caps and small caps, and sometimes the mid caps and small caps, they can move massive on earnings as well, which always makes it a little bit more interesting. So yeah, it should be another busy week on the earnings, especially at the start of the week, straight in on that Hims and Hers earnings, and that's going to be a big one. So yeah, let's keep an eye on it anyway. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in a bit.